I said this before, I'll say it again. I think, the demographic that Alex is bringing to the sport of tennis is so great, and I think all of us should really embrace that, and because we're all benefiting from it. And I don't know, I think when I played her in, where was it, Dubai, and it was such a great atmosphere to play in front of that, and just see a nation and of people who maybe don't always feel represented in this sport really see themselves out there.
Players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest. So things like that happen. I mean, it's...
Coco Gauff has said what a lot of people around the WTA have been quietly thinking for months, and she said it without holding anything back. Alex Eala has changed the tour. That is not a Filipino fan making a bold claim online. That is the world number 4, a 2-time Grand Slam champion, standing on a WTA stage and giving credit to a 21-year-old from the Philippines for bringing an entirely new audience into the sport. Gauff made it clear that everyone on tour should be welcoming what Eala has done, because the players benefiting from these packed stadiums and record crowds are not just Eala herself. It is the whole WTA. New broadcast numbers, new ticket sales, new fans discovering women's tennis for the first time. And Gauff was blunt about where that wave is coming from.
I think it's incredibly inspiring and makes it fun for me to go out there and just play. And I honestly gained some fans from her community off that match, which I think was cool. And I know Alex personally. And
it happened after their meeting at the Dubai Tennis Championships earlier this season. A match Gauff won comfortably, 6-0, 6-2. But the story of that day was never really about the scoreline. It was about the stadium. Center court in Dubai was overwhelmingly pro-Eala, filled with fans chanting her name from the first point to the last. And Gauff, despite being the one taking the loud cheers for her opponent, chose not to be bothered by it. Instead, she leaned into it, joking afterward that whenever the crowd roared for Alex, she pretended it was her own name being called. But then she got serious, and that is the part that mattered. Gauff thanked Eala directly for bringing what she called a new demographic into tennis, and said seeing a stadium that full meant a great deal to her personally. Coming from a player at Gauff's level, that is one of the biggest stars in the sport publicly crediting a rising Filipina for reshaping who shows up to watch WTA tennis. Gauff did not stop at praising the crowds. She went further, framing Eala as genuinely inspiring, not just because of the numbers she draws, but because of how she carries herself while drawing them. It would be easy for a young player suddenly thrust into that kind of spotlight to let it change her. Gauff's point was that Eala hasn't. She still fights from a set down, still treats every opponent with the same respect, win or lose. That Dubai match was proof, because even trailing 4-0 in the second set, Eala clawed back to make it competitive again, and the crowd erupted every time she found daylight.
What you guys see on the court is what we see off the court, and, I'm always going to be supporting her, and it was great to see her win in DC.
And then Gauff pushed the conversation somewhere most players never go. She talked about Eala the person, saying she had seen her behind the scenes, and that what she saw there was someone who is one of the best people on tour, not just one of the best players. For Gauff, those two things aren't separate. She suggested that the grounded, humble approach off the court is part of what makes Eala dangerous on it, and she made a point of saying she would be behind Eala every step of the way going forward. This isn't the first time Gauff has said something like it either. Before their Dubai match even started, she thanked Eala's fans directly, welcoming the wall of noise rather than resenting it. And it goes back even further than that. The two of them actually teamed up as doubles partners at the Italian Open, playing alongside each other rather than against, and Gauff supported her the entire way through that tournament. This recent praise isn't a one-off soundbite for cameras. It's a pattern that has been building for over a year.
Also, like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I really appreciate I think it's great. I know sometimes it's tough when you're playing against a home crowd, but I think that it's great for the sport. So keep being enthusiastic and keep rooting for your player. Yeah.
Jessica Pegula has now added her own voice to it, and the timing makes it even more significant, because she spoke about Eala twice, before and after they actually played each other. Before their Washington final at the Mubadala DC Open, Pegula was asked about Eala's game and admitted her serve had genuinely improved since their last meeting back at the 2025 Miami Open. She also addressed the crowd question directly, calling it amazing for a player who isn't even a top 5 seed yet to pull those numbers, comparing the phenomenon to breakout stars like Joao Fonseca, and calling Eala a ray of light for the tour. Then the match happened, and Eala did what she has made a habit of doing this season. Pegula won the first set before rain suspended play overnight, and when things resumed, Eala flipped the momentum completely, closing it out 4-6, 6-4, 6-0 for her first career WTA title. In her runner-up speech, Pegula congratulated Eala on an incredible tournament, admitted she wasn't sure how much more praise she could add, and openly acknowledged how far Eala's career had come. She also said playing against Eala's crowd wasn't easy, but that she genuinely appreciated the atmosphere it created. Losing a final is never comfortable, especially after leading, but Pegula chose to spend her moment at the microphone lifting Eala up instead of dwelling on the defeat.
To all the Filipino fans that came out and have supported. You guys are still helping grow tennis around the world, and I appreciate that. Being a female athlete, being in tennis, we love to see that grow. So thanks so much, everyone.
But this isn't just a Gauff and Pegula story anymore, and that is what makes it so much bigger. Novak Djokovic, the most decorated player in tennis history, has weighed in too. It happened at the Australian Open, when Eala's fan turnout became such a talking point that organizers were dealing with overflow crowds and long queues just to get into her matches. Asked about the chaos, Djokovic didn't dismiss it as a scheduling headache. He acknowledged it directly, pointing out that Eala represents a massive country with a huge appetite for tennis, and calling her the biggest player that nation has ever produced. He even suggested tournaments needed to start putting her on bigger courts to match the demand, framing the whole situation as a good problem for the sport to have. For the most successful player of his generation to publicly defend Eala's fans and acknowledge her cultural weight on a global stage says everything about how far her impact has traveled beyond the Philippines.
Players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's a big interest. So things like that happen. I mean, it's...
Martina Navratilova, an 18-time Grand Slam champion and one of the most respected voices in tennis, has echoed that same sentiment in her own way. Throughout the season, Navratilova has broken down Eala's game in detail, praising her crafty lefty variety and her sharp use of slice, while also being honest about where she still has room to grow, particularly on serve. That honesty is part of what makes her praise carry weight. So when Eala pulled off her stunning comeback over Pegula to win the DC Open, Navratilova didn't hold back the celebration either, posting her congratulations and calling the win amazing. She has also gone on record saying Eala has the higher long-term upside compared to opponents ranked above her. A bold statement from someone who has watched the sport at the highest level for over 4 decades. Between Gauff's repeated public praise, Pegula's comments both before and after that Washington final, Djokovic defending her fan base on the sport's biggest stages, and Navratilova backing her both technically and personally, a clear picture is forming across tennis. This isn't just Filipino fans hyping up their own player anymore. This is a 2-time Grand Slam champion, a former world number 3, the most successful men's player in history, and one of the greatest women's champions ever, all independently pointing at Alex Eala and saying the same thing in different words. She is changing what women's tennis looks like right now, on the court and off it. And judging by how consistently these legends keep bringing her up, unprompted, before matches and after losses, this conversation around Eala is only just getting started.